Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike Hutchinson. I'm here with Glenn Ford. We are both games designers and we work together quite a lot. So we thought we would have a chat about one of the projects that we are working on, either individually or together. And this time we're going to talk about the new SSO expansion, Rage of Montalbano. Did I say that correctly, Glenn?
Yeah, that's fine.
Why is it called Rage of Montalbano? What's that? What does that mean?
Okay, so it's a roundabout reference to Wrath of Khan. It's the actor who played Khan in the original Star Trek movie is Ricardo Montalban, and rather than just completely stealing his name, I stuck an O on the end. So it's Rage of Montalbano. So the idea of the Rage of Montalbano challenge deck is
before you say too much, let's say a couple of preliminary things. So this is an expansion for SSO. What's SSO, yep. Glenn?
Okay, so SSO is a 1 to 6 player sci-fi survival horror game. Essentially, something terrible has happened to the SS Omega, wiping out the original crew. You and up to 5 of your friends play the rescue team who've got to turn up, go through the ship, find out what happened to the original crew, hopefully survive what happened to them, and guide the Omega to complete its mission and save humanity. So the original set of SSO was a very small base set box. And the original story was essentially a 2001 Space Odyssey where the AI of the original ship is what's responsible for killing off the crew. It was very popular. It's got a lot of high tension gameplay, high difficulty levels. But because it's such a teeny tiny box, very limited components in it. So one of the big things we wanted to do for Rage of Montalbano is we've been able to upgrade all the components, get meeples, player dials for tracking oxygen and morale, and generally upgrade the whole SSO experience.
Nice. And when you came to beyond the lovely additional components and sort of increasing the quality of the experience, like what were you trying to capture with this particular expansion? Was there a corner of gameplay that you hadn't explored yet, or was this more about telling a different story?
So one of the things that's fun with SSO is that the game is driven by a thing called the challenge deck, which is a set of cards that tell a particular sci-fi story. So as I say, in the base set, it's the AI attacking you. The first expansion is the original captain of the ship has survived and gone insane and is picking you off. What that means is that you can slot out those 24 cards of that challenge deck to let the game tell an entirely different story and offer a different challenge. It also means that I can tweak what's in that deck. I can add a few extra rules, take advantage of some of the mechanics of the game. And what I wanted to do for a while was to have that challenge deck. So in the game, the Omega is a modular ship. It's built of a separate set of cards you lay out on the table representing the locations of the ship. What that means is it's pretty natural to have another deck of cards where you pull a card out and that's a location of a ship. So what happens in Montalbano is that Montalbano's the rival captain who was supposed to be up for being captain of the mighty Omega has been passed over, and so has gone and weaponized the Omega's sister ship and is attacking the Omega as you're trying to save it. And representing his ship decloaking next to the Omega is a set of location cards that are in that challenge deck. So as you pull those location cards out, they build a second ship next to the Omega that's attacking it as it uncloaks next to you. And you end up having the option to either try and just literally run around the ship patching up all the damage, or the new game comes with a location which is a shuttle. You can get your crew onto the shuttle, board Montalbano's ship, and if you can occupy enough of the locations of the decloaking ship, you can destroy it and bring it down and win the game that way. So it's really it's an opportunity to sort of see what you can do within a set of limited confines with SSO. I've got 24 cards for the challenge deck. I've got 6 mission cards. And just by tweaking and twiddling and playing with the rules already there, it's how many very different stories I can tell, how much I can sort of get away with within a very small design space. And there's a lot of narrative that can be squeezed out of those things. And that's what I'm really enjoying with designing the new challenge decks.
And with the Rage of Monte Carlo, did it change quite a lot during development, or?
Montalbano.
The Rage of Monte Don, right, I got it.
that's going to be ongoing, isn't it? I mean, the concept was there early on. I quickly realized that I've got these cards, they can be anything. And as soon as I sort of thought, okay, well, they can be another ship, they can be an attack fleet, they can be things that latch onto the ship, that the first idea of doing this sort of second ship that's just going to decloak next to yours and get bigger and bigger and bigger and more threatening, and you sort of deciding whether or not to jump in your little shuttle and piddle over there and climb aboard without any weapons, or whether you're going to sort of try and deal with it in other ways was always exciting. It's been figuring out how the new shuttle location was going to be able to work, fitting in with the existing mechanics, because in SSO there's a set of mechanics for picking out parts of the ship, for destroying bits of the ship, and so the shuttle wasn't going to be able to fit into those previous mechanics, so it had to be worked in such a way that you can get onto the other ship and back off again without jumping through the ship. And so there were a lot of little mechanical tweaks and things that had to be fixed, but the base concept of big ship decloaking next to you and attacking you was always in there. And also I wanted that to be something that was a bit more spectacular, for because Rage of Montalbano was always going to be this sort of deluxe expansion, this bigger thing. So as I say, we brought out SSO and we launched the first challenge deck along with it. We launched the second challenge deck alongside our previous Kickstarter, Moonflight, and I wanted the challenge deck that was going to be in Rage of Montalbano something that would pull out something a little bit more spectacular, you know, a little bit more outside of the run of SSO, and so I wanted it to be something where you flip over one of those challenge cards and you're like, okay, what is that? That's a whole new location. It's not like all the other challenge cards. It doesn't do what all the other challenge cards do. So I knew that I wanted that to be the one that was going to go into that deluxe expansion, that one that was going to let people go, okay, he's done he's pushed the envelope a little bit more. It's done something a bit weird and outside of the sort of the few rules that I have set with the pre-existing challenge decks. Yeah.
Cool. And you've been lucky enough to have a pretty great community building around SSO, right? Did you incorporate any of the community sort of feedback on some of the earlier challenge decks into the way that you approached or finished off the Rage of Monty Python?
So, I mean, alongside Montalbano, we're launching a challenge deck called Temporal Anomaly. That was voted for by backers on the original Kickstarter SSO, and that's an interesting one because I had a set of ideas for a whole range of challenge decks. Once you sort of get into the pop culture references, they come fairly thick and fast. And I really wasn't expecting Temporal Anomaly to be the one that got picked up by the fans. And what it does is it gets you to go back through your collection of other challenge decks and pull out missions from those decks, because time is going weird and different dimensions are crossing over. So you can get hit by the AI attacking you and the first captain and any other mission that you've ever played, and those missions can regenerate and come back in. And it's an interesting deck, basically, because if you can focus and organize all the missions simultaneously, you can absolutely rinse through the deck extremely quickly. But if you don't keep on top of them, it'll just bury you in the missions. So I mean, making that the next deck was obviously, that was based on the fans, based on feedback from them. The main, I mean, it's funny. The two main pieces of feedback that come back from fans is that SSO is hard, like extremely tough. And it's one of those funny things where you get so familiar with a game as you're writing it, and you keep sort of going, okay, maybe this needs tweaking up. I remember when we first launched it, my Phil Hortins, the sort of lead playtester, said he was pretty sure the game was unlosable, was his actual phrase. It's like, I don't think it's possible to lose it. I think you could go out of your way and lose it, but I don't think people can actually lose it. And I've had people come up to me at conventions going, I love it, it's brilliant, we play it a lot, but we've never won. And there's been like one or two comments on Board Game Geek where people have said it's a good game for seeing how far you can get, but it's not a game that you play to win. You know, you see a story come out and you find out how you died. But so yeah, and the other main thing that I think came from player feedback is that because of Rage being in a bigger box, I can have a bigger manual, and the manual that was there in SSO is sufficient, but it doesn't complete. It is, yeah. Everything that you technically need to play the game is in there, and if you can follow very sort of short instructions and do exactly what I tell you to do, and not ask why you're doing it, or certainly not ask for any examples. No. Yeah. It's to do what I tell you to do for a game or two, and then you'll understand it, and then it'll be lovely. And so feedback from the fans there, I've been able to put together obviously a lot of FAQs, explanations, and fans have been good enough to put up their own versions of FAQs of the original rulebook, and taking all of those into account, getting feedback, I've been able to put together a rulebook that is a lot more user-friendly. It's got examples, it's got actual pictures of examples, it's got a flow through of a sort of, here's a version of a first turn that you could just follow along with. So that's been the main thing that's come back from the community, is being able to just extend that rule book, help people out, say this is how to get through your first turn, rather than just going, here's a sandbox, cool stuff will happen, go for it. So the Rage of Marty McFly is an expansion, but it's also like a kind of reboxing of the original game in a sort of, it's not an update to the rules, it's not like a version 2, but it's just like, if this is your first way to encounter the game, you're going to have a more a better experience at the front door. Is that right? Yeah, hopefully. So the various upgrades, again, as I say, SSO was originally in a box small enough to count as a letter. I've got my... It's very, very tiny. Yes, as SSO. And yeah, literally it's a large letter on the UK Postal Service measures. And so that means all the playing pieces are cardboard counters, which I never had any problem with. But for some reason, people cannot pick those counters up. I see people flicking them around the table, chasing them to the edge of the table, sort of dusting them into their hand in order to move like one space across the
Wearing
board.
Those special like thimbles with blue tack on that you sometimes need to move board game pieces around.
I'm not sure what's going on with that. And also the crew's morale and oxygen are tracked by sliders on a card, which aren't ideal. They
The
skid
little
around.
polos.
Yeah, little polo. Even you might want to sort of crack those in half, some of them, so that you can sort of see into them properly. But yeah, they skid around every time you nudge the table, and they do their job, and they fit into a very, very small box at a very, very low price. So the new game having tracker dials that you can drop on the floor and they won't lose the score will hopefully just make the whole experience more enjoyable. It'll make everything smoother, happier. The rule book is going to be that much clearer. It's and one of the things again about SSO is you cannot get the cards back in there sleeved. And you certainly can't get the challenge decks neatly all into one box. So Rage is going to be in a box where the whole the theory of it is you're going to be able to slot the original box sideways in, and then the cards are going to stand up next to it.
Oh, tidy.
So you can then use the original box to hold the dials and the meeples and et cetera, and then the main box can hold all of the crew cards and have a set of dividers that will be labeled out. That's also nice because it does mean that if you want to take SSO to a club night, you can then pull the original box back out, put a single challenge deck and the cards in there, and it goes back to being a very, very pocket-sized game again. I didn't, and I don't want to do, and I don't think I ever will do, a big box version of SSO. I always want to do it in such a way that the original fans, the people who backed us originally on Kickstarter and are the whole reason that it exists, don't have to rebuy something they already own. They can upgrade it. We can sort of shift the experience up a bit. And hopefully it's, coming to a point where it's quite a high-end experience from something that's been put together out of small boxes and tiny price expansions. You're now getting to a game that's a sort of 5 different adventures that can be linked together and play across, into a whole sort of running story. So it's like as I say, the first challenge deck is the AI and the second challenge deck is the first captain. One of the crew members in the game, the captain, allows you to sacrifice the captain in order to clear a challenge card. And I had one of the reviewers, Montalbano, playing through the whole series to review it. He said, so on game 1, we sacrificed the captain to save the crew. And it turned out that game 2 was the first captain. You thought he was dead. And he comes back and he slaughters the crew who let him die. So yeah, you can play through the whole thing as this sort of ongoing story of the much becursed SS Omega. So yeah, it's good. It's fun. I'm liking having this big box game now that's come from being something very independent and very little and very sort of indie and peculiar. Yeah, so yeah, I'm very happy with it.
So assuming anyone watching this video is watching it on or after the 28th of September 2020, what point's the Kickstarter at this point?
Today so it is the 12th of September. We're currently just past halfway as I'm speaking, as we're recording this. So this video is going to be going up as part of Tabletop Gaming's virtual live convention. Hopefully at that point we'll be a good deal further along towards funding. I'm expecting us to be around about funded by that point. But if you go on to it, it'll certainly still be live at the point that Kickstarter, Tabletop Live is going up. So if you go on to Kickstarter and look up SSO Rage of Montalbano, you can drop in and pledge now and be fantastic and back us and help us along.
Fantastic. Last question then. the Rage of Martin Friedman is your third Kickstarter, that's correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What's like the main thing that you've learned each time, and what are you doing differently this time?
Well, the first lesson, I mean, the thing I learned from the first one was that I could run a successful Kickstarter.
Hooray!
Yay! Yes, you know, you put up your first Kickstarter, you don't know if anybody's gonna have any interest whatsoever in the madness that you've visited upon the world, and you don't know if you're gonna, in between manufacturing something in China and shipping it to England and sending it out all over the world, for me, it's a fairly new experience. So that was a big learning curve there. Moonflight, our second game, learning that people would pay more for the thing that I was putting out into the world. SSO was £10 with UK deliveries. That was trying to just sort of catch people with something quite cheap and quite small. Moonflight was a little bit over double that. So it was, it's also, yeah, it's learning the manufacturing process. It's learning to give things that extra sort of bit of product shine. So Moonflight is a swishy magnet catch box. It's got a nice chunky metal coin in it. It's got higher end production and all those things. I didn't know how to design a magnet catch box. I didn't know how to design a 3D metal coin. All those have been sort of learning curves. The single big thing, I suppose, learning between Moonflight and Rage of Montalbano, which is the thing that we've done differently, is for the first time I'm using a pledge manager on Rage of Montalbano. And that's mainly because I think I pushed to the limit how many add-ons and bits and pieces you can get away with in Moonflight. Because in Moonflight we had the main game and we had a playmat for it, but we also had the option for people to back for SSO, and there was also the new SSO expansion Parasites, and the original SSO expansion First Captain. And we managed that, but that was a bit much to put through on Kickstarter's backer survey. This time, since we've got Rage of Montalbano as the basic upgrade, but obviously there's an option for people to order the base set, the expansions, Rage of Montalbano, a playmat is available. There's also the option to stick in for Moonflight. There's the option to go for a stitched playmat as well. That was just, I think, coming to the limit of what was too much to expect a backer to A, add up and tack on by manually increasing their pledge, and B, keep track of just by the Kickstarter backer survey is fantastic, but it definitely has its limits. There's a little bit too far that you can push it. So this time we're going with a pledge manager through CrowdOx. So that's the new thing to learn that I haven't tried out before. I'm sort of in the middle of setting that up now. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. We've gone from, we used a fulfillment center for Moonflight, of going back to self-fulfilling for Rage. I don't think our Kickstarter are the size to justify a fulfillment center. I think that's one thing. I think people take fulfillment centers and pledge managers as an assumption on Kickstarters now. And I'm a big believer that you should find out whether you need it first, and maybe try and get through it yourself, because there are advantages to doing it yourself. Yeah.
Cool. Well, best of luck with SSO and the Rage of Amontillado.
That's a good thing that we're running out of puns there. That's why the interview has to end at this point. They've got like 20 more questions, but the puns are running thin, so we must move on.
Cool. Right. You and I will speak again very shortly. So probably go find another video straight after this one where we'll go and talk about one of our other many distractions and projects that we're working on. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Mike.